What's up, guys? Readiness Reviews here with you again, and I'm just getting back home from a gun show. In today's video, we'll be going over my experiences at today's gun show, and we'll be talking more broadly about the Milsurp market and firearms market in general here at the end of summer 2022. Before we get into the meat of the video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like seeing military surplus-centric firearms content here on YouTube, and to subscribe to the channel to catch all my future videos. Drop me a comment and let me know what the firearms market is looking like where you're from, in particularly on the gun show scene. So of course I live here in Georgia, and so my viewpoint is going to be skewed towards the firearms market here in Georgia. The show I attended today was held by R&K in the metro Atlanta area. This particular show comes around pretty much on a quarterly basis, and I try to attend all of their shows if I can because they are the best in my immediate area. I was very pleased with the wide variety of military surplus firearms that were on display today. I had plenty of cool stuff to look at, and for that reason it was well worth the $15 entry fee. Before we get more deep into the Milsurps, I want to talk about firearms in general though. One thing that stood out to me at this show was the mass amount of AR-15s for far more reasonable prices than they have been recently. Of course, we know the firearms market has been a mess these past couple years, and even though we're going through a very uncertain time politically and globally, the market does seem to be making a turn for the better, at this immediate moment at least, and there were a ton of AR-15s all over the show, and the price point was coming in at around $600 or slightly less, which is a good thing in my opinion. Now, ammo was sort of a different story. Although all your major calibers were readily available, prices are still a bit elevated. The lowest 9mm that I saw at the show was about $18 a box still, and 223 was coming in at about $12 a box, but things do look like they're turning towards the better. Now we'll go over some more Milsurp-centric content, which I know is what you guys want to hear. One of the booths that show up to this gun show every single time that I've made video shorts on in the past was there. This particular booth has unreasonably high prices. Unfortunately, at this show, they have gone to not putting their prices on the firearms at all, and the only way to know how much they are is to ask, and I'm the kind of person that if you don't list the price on it, I'm not going to take the initiative to ask you how much it is, because in most cases I find that those particular items are not necessarily priced to sell, and that means that I wouldn't be interested in buying anyway. I'm going deal hunting at the gun show. I'm not going there to look for things at full retail price plus some, and without a doubt the firearms at this particular table would certainly fall into that higher than market value range. I did find some far more interesting items at more appealing prices elsewhere in the show though. I believe the one gun store is called North Georgia Gun and Pawn, if I'm not mistaken. They had a very nice variety of very cool Milsurps that I will be doing a video short on in the coming weeks. There are no major imports of Milsurps coming into the country right now besides Carcanos that I'm aware of, and so there wasn't one big star of the show like, hey, they had a lot of these. It was more peppered in and out. They had a big variety of a lot of different things. You know, Mosins, Enfields, some American surplus stuff, all different manner of Mausers. This show did have a nice variety of older German Mausers. I saw several 1871s and a couple 1871-84 Mauser rifles, which were very cool, but a little bit out of my price point, although not unreasonably priced. I didn't walk away from the show empty-handed though. I bought two guns, but only one of them is Milsurp, and that is this nice little piece here. This is an Egyptian Mahdi Helwan chambered in 9mm. This is a licensed copy of the Italian Beretta 1951. It is, of course, a single-stacked 9mm handgun, sort of the father of the Beretta 92, and I've been looking to add one of these to my collection for quite a while now. I will be doing a full feature-length review video on the Egyptian Helwan at some point in the future. Being 9mm, it is very easy to feed these firearms. Everyone I've ever spoke with about these firearms say that they are good shooters. I've done some dry fire with it, and the trigger is not necessarily the best for being a single action only firearm, but it should get the job done, and overall the condition of this particular pistol is very, very nice. The gentleman that I purchased this from seemed to be a pistol collector mainly. He had all kinds of super cool stuff that I most certainly cannot afford. FN high powers, 1911s, all kinds of Lugers, all priced in the thousands of dollars. He did have this little guy sitting on his table though, priced at $395, and after inspection of it, thought it looked pretty good, but that price was a little bit more than what I wanted to pay, and I offered him $350. He thought about it for a moment and said, let's do the deal. And of course, the deal was done. So now I'm the proud owner of my very first Egyptian military surplus handgun. In the Egyptian military, this is the firearm that effectively replaced the Tokarev. And being a 9mm is certainly a lot more cost effective to shoot than many other Milsurp handguns on the market at the moment. So to see future shooting footage and a review of this handgun, don't forget to sub to the channel. One of the more interesting things that I ran into at the gun show is my first time seeing one of these in person, and that was an Obrez. Now generally when you think of an Obrez, you think of a Mosin, because that is what has been put forth the most. It is a military bolt-action battle rifle cut down into pistol form. So the barrel is lobbed off pretty much right in front of the chamber, and the stock is cut off at the pistol grip, and now you have a bolt-action pistol. This particular Obrez was built on an infield platform, and they wanted an absolute ridiculous $1,300 for it, which was mind-blowing in my opinion for such an impractical and silly firearm. But I thought it was really cool nonetheless. It's always interesting to see weird things like that. The same guy that had the Obrez had another infield that I thought was pretty darn cool, and that was a number 4 infield that had apparently been converted to shoot 45 ACP, and it had an insert that looked like it took 1911 magazines, but I've never seen anything like that before in my life. A number 4 infield chambered in 45 ACP. I thought that was pretty cool too. Stepping back away from Milsurps for a moment, there was another vendor at the gun show that had very recently won a police auction, and he had an absolute buttload of evidence room pistols. I'm talking a bucket of pistols, and he was running a show supercell, one pistol for $99.99. Almost everything he had was high points. I know high points get crapped on a lot. People really don't like them, but in reality, as someone who has a good bit of trigger time on a high point, they're actually really good shooting guns for the money, as crazy as that is to say. And for $100, I couldn't pass up adding another high point C9, the Yeet cannon, to my collection. I dug through his box and found the one that was in the absolute best shape, and it pretty much looks new out of the box. There's no defects with it as far as I can tell. A lot of the firearms that he did have were missing sights or look like they have been tossed out of vehicles and skid across asphalt, which in many cases they probably had, being police locker room handguns. But for $100, it's hard to beat the firepower you get from ye old High Point. Simple blowback operation, super chunky and ugly, weighs a ton, but when you squeeze the trigger on one of these, it goes bang, and with that fixed barrel, the bullet goes where you want it to, in my experience at least. I intend on using this as like a stow gun. I think I'm just going to stick it in my vehicle and let it live there, and if for some reason it was ever stolen or something, I'm only out $100, as opposed to being out of the cost of a more substantial firearm like a Glock or a SIG or something that would actually hurt if it was lost. So I picked up one of the fella's High Points, but he had a ton of pistols. I'd say he probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or 30 High Point pistols. I don't know why they were all High Points, but he had every kind of High Point you could imagine. There was a handful of 380 autos, a whole bunch of 9mm. There were a couple 40s, and there was even a 45, which I was also eyeing, but it was missing the rear sight, and that's why I decided not to go for the 45. Back at the height of the most recent firearm scare, I saw High Point 9mm going for as much as $250, and while that is a completely outrageous and ridiculous price for such a cheaply made handgun, I do think that a High Point is worth every bit of $100. Any which way you want to look at it. Let me know what you think about High Points down in the comments. I know it's a very polarizing topic, and trust me, I understand both sides of the aisle there. So even though there were tons of really awesome Milsurp rifles at the show, there was not one at a price point that I was able to negotiate down to the point where I would be willing to buy it. There were two guns in particular that I made offers on. One was a Turkish updated 1916 Berthier, and in retrospect, I probably should have bought that rifle because I haven't seen many of them at all in recent years, and that's one I would really like to add to my collection. In my particular collection, I really like firearms that were passed around from one military to another, and changes and updates were made to fit what that particular military wanted, and that Berthier is a perfect example of that kind of thing, going from French service to Turkish service, but they wouldn't come off the price quite as much as I needed them to. They were asking $450 for it, which in reality is reasonable. They would have took $400, but I really wanted it for more like $350. and they didn't want to come off of it, so I decided to pass. And I have virtually the same story by that 7.62 NATO chambered Ishaport Enfield. 2A Enfields are fantastic firearms, and I've been on the hunt for one in particular for a couple years now, especially since I have my growing Enfield collection, and I do a lot of Enfield-centric things here on the channel. That would be a really good one to have in the reference collection. They were asking $500 for it, and I offered them $400, which is really what I want to buy one for, and they wouldn't go any lower than $450. And again, if I would have went for that firearm at $450, it wouldn't have been a major loss or anything. That's basically market value for those firearms. When I go to a gun show, I'm not necessarily looking to buy things at market value. I can do that online. If I'm in a gun show, I'm trying to wheel and deal and get something that's really worth my money. I struck out on ammunition for uncommon calibers. Although they did have some 7.7 Japanese and 6.5 Japanese, it was extremely expensive. I think it was coming in at about $54 a box. They had one box of Steinel 6.5 Carcano, and I believe it was in the $55 plus range as well. And although that is good ammo, that is a lot of money for that ammo. And so I didn't pick up any ammunition, even though I wanted to. But for all the common calibers, 7.62 by 39, 223, 7.62 NATO, 9mm, they had it all in abundance, and the prices weren't completely outrageous. Tons of magazines, AR-15 magazines as far as the eye can see, which is always an awesome thing in my opinion. Can never have too many magazines. On a little side tangent, I was actually noticed at the gun show by viewers on 3 separate occasions. To my shock and surprise. I certainly never expect to get noticed by anybody, but it does happen from time to time, and it's always an awesome experience. If you guys see me in the wild, please say hi. I love interacting with you guys directly, and it's always fun to chat with someone who has similar interests. So how's the firearms market looking here at the end of summer 2022? I must say it is looking a good deal better than it was the last time I made one of these videos. And hopefully it'll look even better next time, although in the next quarter we're going to be moving into midterm elections, and there's no telling what's going to come of that. So I can only hope that we stay with that trend in the coming weeks and months, but I guess we'll have to see. Before we end this thing, I did want to talk about 2 firearms in particular that I was really shocked at the price on, and that was Russian SKSs. There were 2 at the show that I noticed. One was priced at $1,300, and the other one was priced at $1,200. Whew, and that is making me feel a lot better at my purchase I made last year for like $750. It really hurts to see Russian SKSs going at over $1,000 when I witnessed the heyday of them being like $300. Anyway, that about does it for this video, guys. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. I know this one was a little light on content, but we'll have a more in-depth Milsurp Firearms video on the next go-around, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see that. Don't forget to let me know what the firearms market is like in your particular area, because I know it is different all over the country. And if you found any good deals recently, I will catch you guys in the next video. See you then. Peace.